kironJ, how are you?
Hello, Leon. I'm very well. Happy to be with you.
Likewise, somebody from England on the podcast.
Yes, somebody from England doing a podcast. Wonderful.
True, yeah. And how lovely that you know, we've been brought together. We've been brought together through our lovely mutual friend Andreas.
Yes,
And yeah, I like the surprise of going, wow, okay, who's this?
lovely.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very clear. I listened to the podcast with Andreas and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think the next morning I just got the prompt, contact Leon and see if he would like to talk about this particular theme. I thought, okay, nothing to lose. Off I go. And here we are.
Absolutely, yeah, I love it. And as I was saying to you before we press record, it's like the orientation is so refreshing and it's so healthy for me to have a potential structure and pattern, not challenged, but just exposed as like freshened up or something.
Yeah, happy that that's been the case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's very much in alignment with how I operate as a person as well, because I'm kind of like somebody who likes to be surprised by life. I don't really flourish in the sort of paradigm where someone will say, on Monday we do this, on Tuesday we do that, on Wednesday we do. I like to find out that on Monday, when I thought I was popping around the shops, I bump into an old friend and we end up sitting down and having a coffee and going for a walk by the sea. And at the end of the day, going, wow, I never knew that was going to happen today.
Mm, mm. Well, that's a very interesting segue, if you're happy for this,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
into introducing this theme. So
Mm,
the theme that came to me
mm,
was from a course teaching, from a course quote from the Song of Prayer
mm.
about not setting forgiveness in an earthly frame.
Gotcha.
And it got me thinking about forgiveness and a ladder of prayer. And I could talk about that in a minute, but to keep with your what's going to happen today and liking that to be fresh and not known, I was thinking, what would it be like if we woke up in the morning and thought, what am I going to think today? Rather than what am I going to do today? What difference would that make to our experience, to our healing journey, to our forgiveness practice? What am I going to think today? And then we've gone to the mind level, and it doesn't matter whether Monday looks like Tuesday, looks like Wednesday, or whether it looks like a friend taking you to the sea and then something else happening. That's setting forgiveness or our experience within a worldly frame.
Mm,
And I feel the Course inviting us to take everything to the mind level.
mm.
So, what are we going to think in this podcast? Might be a question you could ask. Or through this podcast, this appearance of a podcast, what are we going to think? What are our listeners going to be thinking as they seem to be viewing Leon and kironJ talking?
Wow, love that. What am I going to think today? God, yeah, that's fantastic. And I wonder whether that's an unarticulated presence in my mind. So, a brief way to explain the start to my day would be 6 o'clock. The alarm goes off. Me and the dog and the cat down to the kitchen. Actually, the cat's normally outside and wants to come in after a night out on the tiles. Um, make some coffee, feed the cat, feed the dog, sit down, drop into silence, start to hear something that I probably need to write down or just listen to, and then stand on the doorstep, look at the sky, drink coffee, look at the surroundings, be present, maybe read a little bit of the course or respond to people who've reached out to me in different ways, and just set that intention, um, and hand things over as well, just in that sense as well of whether that's articulated or not, just to sort of make that offering, make yourself available to be at the disposal of something bigger than what you could think was your best
Mm.
potential for the day, if that makes sense.
Mm. What I see as crucial in this is our sense of identity. So if you are Leon, waking up, sorting out cat and dog, having your coffee, looking at the sky, answering emails, looking at the course, then this is still listening to the Holy Spirit, I would offer. It is still doing your day with a wish to be separate. No matter how beautiful your email might be to somebody or how lovely your taking in of the course lesson or whatever, if you're Leon doing these things, ditto anybody, then we are choosing to reject our creator and the truth. So an alternative to that, the real alternative to that, is to come to a mind identification immediately. Immediately, we come to waking from our nighttime sleep. And I'm a mind. I'm a mind dreaming this experience. I'm a mind dreaming. I'm a person called Leon. I'm a mind dreaming. I'm going to have the coffee and. And for me, that is setting the intention of being a mind all day long, although there's no day. And this is certainly my practice. I'm not saying I do it perfectly. However, this is in my heart. It is in my desire. It's in my devotion to remember I'm a mind, that this is a dream, and my deepest yearning is to wake up from the dream. And so can I dedicate all the experiences that seem to be happening in kironJ's day to this purpose, to this holy purpose of awakening, of knowing that it couldn't have happened. The Course says that forgiveness will show us that this world is an impossibility. Now, isn't that something to conjure with at 6 o'clock in the morning over your coffee? Leon's impossible, the coffee's impossible, the dog and cat are impossible, the podcasts are impossible. None of this could be happening. And I see that kind of approach as a slingshot to the second coming. That's a phrase that keeps coming to me. It's a right royal invitation to travel that journey without distance in our mind, to open up to beyond everything we think we know here. And everything can be that slingshot, the having the coffee, the sorting out the dog and the cat, the having the pain, having the conflict, having the excitement, having the friend that will take you to the beach unexpectedly. All of it, we can keep coming to the mind level and know that being the dreaming mind is only a temporary stepping stone back to being the Christ. And I feel that the one dreaming mind is more and more interested in this. I feel there's a shift of gears, and whatever the person's thinking and doing, the mind's actually becoming much more interested in remembering the truth of itself. Yeah. And this can be wonderful and terrifying and miraculous, all mixed up together, and tends to be. Certainly my experience.
The unification of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. If it was really unified, we'd have transcended the ego.
Mm.
The only reason we haven't transcended the ego is because we don't have a unified purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at that honestly, without guilt, without beating ourselves up, just being aware more and more of the territory of our healing journey is incredibly powerful. And really avoiding coming away from the temptation to ever be the victim of anything.
Mm.
We are the mind dreaming this dream in all its details.
Mm.
It's no good saying, I'd love peace, but if we really loved peace, we'd have peace. Always, 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 our experience is what the mind is purposefully choosing.
Wow. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that.
Including the ego storms when we go into a deep healing journey. They're all chosen.
Mm. Yeah, because to discriminate is to make something discrete or special, and therefore it's to separate it, and there's no distinctions in the truth.
Yes, yes, that's how I see it too. Yeah, yes. The ego can be very sneaky, which means our minds can be very sneaky in listening to the ego. And practicing forgiveness on our upbringing, on our partners and children, and our financial situation and our health situation.
Mm.
And yet I see that we have to practice forgiveness on our forgiveness practice.
Yeah, that's excellent.
We have to never, ever be in the powerless position.
Mm.
You know, it's not fair. I've done all this work and I still can't forgive, or I was doing so well and then this symptom arrived and I just went into fear. What could I do? All this has to be seen through if we really want to come to peace.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I resided at the choice point, but
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know, I think the more that you journey into that identification, part and parcel of that is that sneaky presence no longer has all the shadows to operate in. It's very clear, you know, even today at work when I often say to people from my observations, it's normally when I start to get tired and a bit hungry at work that that the volume or the thoughts themselves will come from that activity of mind that we call the ego. But the cloak and dagger way that it might have once hidden within my perception of who I thought I was, it hasn't got that platform to hide from me now. And it's like, okay, I can hear these thoughts. I can hear the way that these thoughts are trying to direct at a current situation or something. And I know that really those specifics that are being presented to me aren't the real expression of what this is about.
Mm.
And just listen to it and just look at it and just go, oh well. You know, I find it quite interesting that I don't I don't take it too seriously. Like you know, if I think of like a Catholic kind of model that I understand from us being in our country and observing the traditions and cultures that are commonplace here and in Europe and on our doorstep. Obviously, that you are not worthy, kind of like you couldn't be more guilty. You know, God will, no matter what you do, God's never going to want to know you. This kind of model,
Mm.
it just doesn't register. I can't take the seriousness on board. You know, when you think of it, just saying separation's just a faulty formulation of reality. It's just
Yeah,
some something some way of like thinking or presenting it to yourself where guilt is like impossible or something in it. And you can just go,
yeah, yeah.
so what?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything at
No.
all. No.
Do I feel bad for not spilling some red wine on the white carpet? Ah,
I would add something
yeah, please.
to that contemplation. You know, and of course, absolutely brilliant. Just not getting upset about things in the way that perhaps you might have done in the past. Don't
Mm,
take it seriously. They're just ego thoughts. It
mm,
doesn't mean anything. Um, I would put in there the usefulness of acknowledging, and they are right now being made by my mind. It's not they've kind of come and I don't have to take them seriously. Well, look, absolutely, of course you don't. Um, but I am the mind that's making those thoughts I no longer have to take seriously because they're not in your mind. They don't come from anywhere but your own mind. And I wonder if that's helpful, whether that adds another layer, or perhaps that's how you see it in the first place.
oh, a bit of both, you know, a bit of both. And I'm thinking of like my thoughts are not images that I've made, along with, I suppose, again, another part of my journey at the moment is looking at the contradictions, if you like, in the term in the course, in terms of the way language is used in one sense and then used in another sense, and there's no rigidity. There's no like, hey, you meant that then, and now it means this, you know, and stuff like God's plan. God holds out his hand. God takes the final step. What, you know, opposed to like God knows not form, you know, mind
Yeah,
is pure abstraction. And then I come back to Ken saying, you know, read the course like a giant poem. Why
yeah,
is that? Is that so that you instill a rhythmical meter where you go la 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 la? It's like no, it's where you, so that you don't use it like an instruction manual where you'd start cross-referencing what you thought he said in chapter 6 against what he's now saying in chapter 12.
yeah,
You just
yeah,
allow it to have that fluidity of a poetic construct
mm,
so that it's got the movement. It's just the movement to say one thing to you for 31 chapters, to say one thing to you for 365 lessons.
yeah, yes, yes. Beautiful that you've brought this because it can be a source of confusion, can't it? It can get us all tied up. The way I understand it, which I think is Ken Wapnick's understanding,
Mm,
is as well as others, is that the Course is a correction for our separation thinking. So it is simultaneously pointing to the truth um, for our dualistic minds to have a go at, and also to take our weird and very peculiar insane thinking and bit by bit provide a correction for it. So it will correct in many different ways because our insane thinking works in many different ways.
Mm.
So, God crying for his children and missing his children and all this
Yeah.
is just not meant to be taken literally. It's a correction for the vengeful God that we're
Yeah.
terrified of.
Yeah.
And then it points to the God that knows no form.
Mm.
So I don't see any contradiction at all in the
Yeah.
Course,
Yeah.
at all. And I have found tuning into the voice of the Course and flowing with this beautiful mix of analogies and metaphors and pointings and corrections is extraordinarily healing for this mind. In a way that an academic textbook could never, ever be.
Mm.
I see it as brilliant, genius, and perfect.
I love that. Amen to that.
Yeah.
I tell you what I'm thinking when, or seeing, I should say, during your sharing there is like somebody holding on to a knife really, really tightly, and the gentle approach of what's the right word? It's like exposing is a good word. Exposing the value of just letting go of the knife, and then how that fits with like the fact that the word surrender never gets used in the course, but the whole thing's about surrender. But the form of surrender is no sacrifice. It's a surrender of something. It's a surrender. You wouldn't want the knife.
Mm. Mm. That's beautiful. Touching it with the gentle hands of forgiveness, isn't it? That's one of the ways that
Yeah.
the Course says it. Yes. I think there's wisdom and purpose in not using the word surrender,
Mm.
although we could understand it as that's what it's all about.
Mm.
Um, and my take on that, for what it's worth,
Mm-hmm.
is it's quite a powerful word within our human usage.
Right.
And it so often has a negative connotation that we're going to lose something.
Yeah.
And it's placing us in the identity of the one that's surrendering. And what the
Mm.
Course is actually helping us see that we never were that one that thinks it's got to surrender something.
Mm.
That's the forgiveness. We never were this person that might have to let go of its individuality.
I'm there, yeah, because I think of like if there was a word that's going to press the button for the ego to start flashing full on, it's like surrender. Surrender what? What?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, actually, don't surrender. Okay, well, but I tell you what, nothing I see means anything. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I can sort of take that on board.
Yeah.
Nothing I see means anything, darling. Okay, right, okay, got you.
Come this way, very gently.
Put
You
the
have
knife
no
down.
idea.
Yeah,
That's right.
you don't want that knife, dear me.
No, no, no.
So I'm interested to think about something that came into my mind on Saturday. Where are we now? Wednesday,
Thursday. Thursday.
Thursday, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Um, Saturday night, I had to jump up out of bed a couple of times and jot some stuff down. And one of them was with the vision, with the Holy Spirit's vision, I look upon the belief in sickness and forgive it. Where does that take you?
Mm. Well, for me, the Holy Spirit's vision is us as a mind remembering the truth, remembering God, and then looking at what it's made through that lens, through that understanding. And the Course talks about Christ's vision, which I would say is the same thing.
Right.
So that's that part. And then forgiving, letting go the belief in sickness. So sickness is an impossibility because change is an impossibility. God is and nothing else is. There's never been any change. So to think of sickness coming from God, most people would think is slightly crazy. Can God be sick? No. So there's no sickness. So we can only have a belief in sickness,
Mm.
but it's not true.
Mm.
And the healing would be to see that sickness is an impossibility.
Mm.
So that your friend who's having the cancer treatment, that's an impossibility. You know, the child that's just died, that's an impossibility. Your cold, that's an impossibility. Whatever form of the sickness, it cannot happen. Only in a dream can it seem to happen. And to awaken from the dream, we have to stop believing that anything within the dream is true and the whole dream itself is true. So this is our day-to-day forgiveness practice and the entirety of the forgiveness practice, which takes us to the atonement principle that the separation never happened. And we do this as best we can, bit by bit, opening and opening. And I would say having a willingness to understand forgiveness at a deeper and deeper and deeper level. We're back to a ladder of forgiveness again.
Mm. Wow, I love that. That comes all the way back to what will I think today, and bringing Ken into the mix again. Think about Ken and his couple of sort of times when he was asked about the whole thing. He said, "Be kind." How would you sum it all up, Ken? Be kind. And another thing he used to like to say to people was, "Go deeper." And it's also making me think about projection as like the activity of judgment and projection, and the idea of sickness, all these things coming under the one mental activity. Again, Ken sort of pointing out there's only two quote unquote locations onto which projection can seem to take place, and that would be one being the world and two being the body. And then the idea of sickness that's projected in order to try and justify the guilt that's coming from the judgment. It's like a big spoon just stirring the pot and trying to create the whirlpool for itself to keep existing in.
Yes. And the sickness is doing that, of course. The sickness is believing
Yeah.
that any of this could happen. And so that sick idea that we could be an individual and separate from God is what's projected onto the world. And then we have sick bodies, sick relationships, sick systems, sick climates, sick, and on and on and on. Yeah.
And then to tie to keep the conversation circling in on itself, to not see that as serious and something to feel guilty about, and
mm,
also what what will I think today?
mm. Will I think sick thoughts today or healthy thoughts today?
Mm,
In other words, thinking with the ego or thinking with the Holy Spirit.
mm.
Yeah.
And if the ego runs as like a secondary program, as like an effect of this faulty formulation of reality, I'm thinking about like Ramana Maharshi talking about attention, the currency of attention, and the withdrawal of attention in external worldly activity. The the less that you lean in and follow those circuitous routes of like bonkers thoughts, and by the time you get to the end of it, you think, "What? Sorry, you know." All of a sudden, I'm thinking about the Roman Empire, and started off thinking about buying some bananas 20 minutes ago. Um,
Yeah.
that withdrawal, that mind training, you're far too tolerant of mind wandering. That sort of changes the focal point, if that's the best language I
Mm,
can use. The centering to just like, again, if I think of in the morning, just like, oh right, where's the silence? Oh, there it is. Hello, friend. I'm just gonna be in silence for a while, just like dogs eating in the background, the clock's ticking, the kettle's boiling, the birds are tweeting. Is it? And I'm just like, oh, hello, friend. Sit
yeah.
in that beautiful silence and get wrapped up in it.
Mm, mm.
But if you follow the trail, then, can you say, so what? So what? Or
Yeah.
where's the sweet spot in your understanding between that program running and sort of going, poof, okay, and having a so what kind of view, to just cultivating the actual way that you want to direct your attention.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, Leon. Beautiful. Well, I come to the course teaching on the holy instant, and it says many things about the goal of the course, and one of them is it's living in the holy instant, which I understand. We practice it um, because actually doing it, living in the holy instant all the time, is very much on the top rungs of the forgiveness ladder. However, we can give it our best shot that we take our attention beyond this world more and more until it is a permanent state. Our mind is always open beyond
Mm,
everything here.
mm,
And we might think, well, how do I tie my shoelaces? How do I have my coffee? All that kind of questioning, which the ego will rush in with. And um, of course, that's the ego, because we are an all powerful mind that has dreamt a cosmos. It can certainly keep open to the memory of God while projecting a figure called Leon going to work, doing whatever, kironJ doing whatever. No sweat, no difficulty whatsoever. And we'll know that when we're willing to do it. It will become easy because we will be the mind that knows that it's easy. And of course, at one point says that it's Christ that's going to do this for you. It can't be difficult. It's that kind of idea. So, yes, let's join in the holy purpose of taking our attention beyond this world more and more solidly, more securely, more devotedly, and watch how what we call our personal lives just get sorted. They just get done. And we don't have to go and live in a cave. I mean, Ramana Maharshi, not that I know, huge amounts about him, but I think he was in a cave for 16 years or something like that. And of course, there's value in that kind of experience. That's a very, very deep healing experience. And then he came out, and then he was a little bit more sociable. The Course's way in particular is to help us be in what we would call our daily lives and live in the holy instant. It doesn't mean don't go to the cave. Jesus went to the desert. We can have all kinds of retreats. No problem. However, I see, what's coming to me to say now is that until we can be connected and be in the holy instant in the face of our remaining projections, the remaining parts of our dream that seem to have validity and truth, then we're not clear of it. There can't be anything that we say, oh no, I couldn't face that. I need to retreat to my cave. We have to be willing to face not just a general, all the troubles of the world, but our projections, our beliefs in the separation. That's all we ever have to do, is face what the mind is still clinging to and choose again and see the nonsensical nature of it, the meaninglessness of it, and the nothingness of it. It's an hallucination. We have to be able to say that with everything in form, because what we see outside of ourselves remains beyond forgiveness. We have to see it all as a projection. That's our forgiveness work as I see it.
Wow. That's superb. I love that. In an earthly frame, to go back to your original
Yeah.
sharing, it just makes me think of the times when I drive along in my car coming home, looking at the sky and thinking, are we in a snow globe or something? I'm not buying into all this. What is all this? This isn't real.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a very early practice in my very early days of the course. Whenever I went out of the front door, the practice was to see it wasn't real. The street, the shop, the whatever. Have the willingness to see it. The Course says all we need is the willingness and the desire to see differently. We don't have to know how to orchestrate that difference at the human level. We just have to desire it, and then the mind will make it so.
And what could you not accept if you knew that all things, past, present, and to come, were orchestrated by one who's only got your best interests at heart, in mind?
Yeah. Oh,
Amazing.
yeah. Thank you so much for this. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, me, it's incredible. This was such a fantastic gift to be so surprised. Like the guys who follow the podcast will know that I dial into my guests for a week or so before, and the inspiration and the guidance for the questions comes from me dialing into the energy. So yeah, it was a very healthy build up for me to consciously try to not turn to that potential pattern, what would maybe become a pattern. So yeah, for the orientation, for you to suggest a topic and to present me with the thought and for me to not know much about you. It's amazing, brilliant, and I can't. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and put into words just the uh, the impact of some of the things that I felt going into my mind during this conversation. It's been absolutely astounding, amazing.
It's beautiful, beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in terms of like turning something from an abstract principle and maybe even like an unarticulated abstract principle of like developing a default setting to say, what am I going to think today? If somebody's watching this and they're like as captivated by that suggestion as myself, what's the shallow end to go into the pool?
What a lovely, lovely question. Well, I'm drawn to a quote, and I will have it here.
Mm.
Yes. So this is the first part of my answer.
Mhm.
His voice, the Holy Spirit's voice, will teach you what forgiveness is and how to give it as he wills it to be. Do not then seek to understand what is beyond you yet, but let it be a way to draw you up to what the eyes of Christ become, sorry, let it be a way to draw you up to where the eyes of Christ become the sight you choose. Give up all else, for there is nothing else. So this quote is saying, you won't understand, and don't let that be a barrier. Let forgiveness be taught to us, and let the teaching draw us up to where the eyes of Christ become the sight we choose. So to somebody listening to this saying, oh, how do I go about thinking all day? I would say offer that question up. Can you feel something in you that would like to know? Listen for that prompting, that desire, that yearning, that, oh, what's going on there? I'd like to know more. Listen to that and ask to be taught by the teacher of forgiveness who can fail in nothing.
That's brilliant. That's a really beautiful way of presenting the little willingness and the whole deference and this the suggestion within deference. It's like if you're going to believe that you're a separate individual, special, discrete, localized point of consciousness, however you want to describe it, then why on earth would you engage in an activity where you're essentially deferring to an identification beyond what you perceive yourself to be? And again, beautiful. The conversation's just spiraling and circling in on itself again, because we're back now to nothing I see means anything and surrender. And it's like you're not surrendering anything you
Well,
want. You're not
yeah,
surrendering anything that even exists.
yeah, yeah. We're only remembering. So if you're listening to this and you're very new to the course and think, um, I invite you to open to, I am not this person who's only been studying the course for 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years. I am a mind that's dreaming that. And salvation's offered us now, and salvation is easy because it doesn't ask anything we can't accept right now. So it doesn't matter at the level of form, really, what our understanding and familiarity is with the Course. The mind outside of time and space can choose to make that shift, can just decide to remember what it's up to.
Mm.
And the more we do study the Course and practice it, the easier it is at this level to know that, because we have experience of it.
Right.
So, of course, in our experience at the human level, it does help to have a deep commitment to study and practice of the Course, if that's your teaching.
Sure.
If it's something else, do a deep study and practice of that.
Yeah.
But if your way at the moment is A Course in Miracles, then all encouragement to both study the metaphysics very deeply and practice forgiveness very deeply, because they are a virtuous circle. It can be thought, oh no, you don't need much metaphysics, you need to practice. But the Course says that we're practicing the ideas in the text. So the more deeply we know the ideas in the text,
Yeah.
the more we'll be motivated and the more we'll be able to deeply practice forgiveness. I see them as so important, both of them, if we really, really want the peace that the Course is offering.
Mm. I'm not sure if I do want the peace of God. I saw a nice television in the store the other day that I thought that'd look great in my lounge. I thought I'm going to remember to not to laugh today. Yeah, what am I going to think today? Am I going to remember not to laugh today?
Yeah. Of course, we can have the television and the peace of God, but the question is what we see as real. The television might be a reflection of the peace of God. But if we want a television, no, forget it. That's all ego. Yeah.
And again, how about how about a gift of a small parcel of an explanation of the metaphysics, or a signpost to what would be a good way to build momentum on that aspect of the mental journey?
The metaphysics.
Hmm.
Well, the practical side of the answer is see if you feel prompted to look at something every day, even if it's just a paragraph, if you're not regularly looking at the text. It's far better to start little and build rather than make ambitious goals and then find it's all too much. So say you're a student who's been studying the workbook, who's been practicing forgiveness, but never really ventured towards the text. Just have a go. Just flick through and intuitively choose a page, intuitively choose a paragraph, have a look at it and see, what is that saying to me now? And be really honest with what it's saying to you. It might not be saying anything you understand, in which case the honest response would be, I don't understand anything that's written here. Now that has value, even though it might not seem like it's got value.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand anything, you might go and look again and say, is there a phrase? Is there just a couple of words that somehow call to me, whether I like them or I don't like them?
Mm.
There's something that I feel drawn to. And look at that phrase, those few words, and be in relationship with them. Oh, that's really putting the wind up me. Oh, how beautiful. Whatever that is a perfect toe in the water with the metaphysics.
Brilliant.
And then keep going. And then you might find, oh, I'm quite drawn to have a look at, let's see, chapter 10. Let's have a look at chapter 10
Mm.
and have a look at chapter 10. Or you might be guided, let's start from the beginning and see how far I get and do that. If you are more familiar, if you're listening to this and you're more familiar with the text, the metaphysics, maybe you've done the whole thing, maybe
Mm.
you've done quite a bit of it.
Mm.
I would say, can you find a prayer in your heart to go deeper in your understanding of it? And then see what comes. It might be, have another look at chapter 16, or do a few days of intuitively dipping in and see what you come to. Choose a topic and see where you can find that in the course. Do something, which of course is just the reflection of the mind thinking something. It'll look
Mm.
like you doing something, but it won't be. It'll be the mind choosing to consider more deeply this alternative thought system to the ego thought system. That's what the metaphysics is. It's an alternative thought system to the ego thought system. Not the only one, but a very comprehensive, beautiful, radical, miraculous one. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Great answer. I'm sort of seeing like, a bite-sized chunk and basically building the momentum by just this very almost like you don't have to consciously direct this appetite. So you
Mm,
have a bite-sized chunk and then you've chosen that from this. It's almost like tapping into the guidance without knowing you're tapping into the guidance, because if you just go with what you feel and
mm,
you're directed to that, and then that you're directed to it because you cannot but be in the right place at the right time. And then obviously that's the perfect thing to speak to you in that moment, to then build the momentum.
mm,
Not only is it building the momentum of like a self-feeding kind of process of generating more and more velocity and energy, that you're choosing the right language for yourself. You're also learning about guidance at the same time.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Yes, you are. Yeah.
and before
Yeah.
you know it, you're stuffing your face with the whole cake and you've got chocolate everywhere. You're not even going to get a tissue and wipe any of
No, no, no,
it.
just more, more, more. Can I share with you?
Yeah, sharing it. Yeah.
Because it's about the metaphysics, it's about the text. I have had the guidance, and I've just started this in form to write a book, write a Course in Miracles book. And this is 18 months in gestation in the mind,
Yeah.
like, oh, no, I can't do that, and all the rest of it. And
Yeah.
on we go. And in whole long healing process for this mind. And in the summer, various ideas have come and gone, but an idea landed, and it seems to be what's actually going to happen. And the working title of it is Another Look at the First 5 Chapters of A Course in Miracles So if you've got any familiarity with the course community and the course and its history, you may be familiar with the common looking at the first 5 chapters. It's a bit clunky. Helen wasn't quite up to speed. Lots has been missed out, and they're not quite right. There's this common understanding that they're not quite right. And my guidance is to take a totally different approach. Of course, there's value in all approaches. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Helen and Bill and their history and what's edited, and there will be value there if that's the story you're guided to follow. But of course, it's a story. The course has no history, just like we have no history. There is no past. And my guidance is to offer an approach that says, let's put all that to one side, all this thinking about the first 5 chapters, and let's have another look at the absolute healing gems that are presented in the Blue Book. The Blue Book is my book. So my guidance is to choose 6 quotes from each section in the first 5 chapters. And I've now chosen them. They may change. And I've just started to go through and make a commentary about each quote as it comes to me. Not thinking, where does this quote fit? What's coming next? What's coming before? What was missed out? This quote, right now, in the present, you and this idea, what's going on? So the book is an invitation into an experience. So there will be commentaries about each of these quotes. And then the most beautiful, beautiful gift was given to me about 18 months when this idea of writing a book came up. One of my students said, I'd love to transcribe your events, your recorded events.
Yeah.
And she has transcribed 53 events. Some are 6 hours long, some are only 45 minutes. Wow. So I have an absolute wealth of material. And of course, nothing would be given identifying the person. But so there'll be 3 layers to this book. There'll be the quotes, there will be the commentaries, and then there will be the illustrations of students' experience and my teaching. All looking at these quotes, mentioning other parts of the course, of course, and it's not for beginners. It is for long-term students who have a good understanding, whatever that might be for them, but a good understanding of the metaphysics, lots of forgiveness practice behind them, so that when the spotlight is shone on a particular quote, leaving aside where it is and what, it is held in the reader's understanding, so that there is a healing process going on, a spotlight on these gems rippling and shining on the student's mind. And I cannot begin to tell you how joyful I am that this is the healing path of this mind, seemingly.
Right, we're going to press stop, and you're going to go and crack on with that because I want to read it.
Right.
I'm just going to get my sat nav out and put Brighton to Norwich.
You're in Brighton, are you?
Yeah.
I used to live in Brighton. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
No, Brighton to Norwich, my new best friends, special relationship. Here we come. Do you know what's mad about that, which isn't mad? And the circling in on it. So I'm getting, I'm starting to bore myself saying this.
No, it's lovely. You're keep bringing it together. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I am using my sarcastic humour, but on Monday I was asked to go onto someone else's podcast. And again, oh God, I'm just realising this now. Again, I didn't allow myself to go in with a script, with a with a safety net, or it's just like, no, just going to go. Um, and I used the word clunky to describe the first 5 chapters,
Uh-huh. Right.
and talked about the material. If I basically said I don't really find it jarring, those first. I know, as you said, this is a commonly held
Mm,
perspective on what I describe to just be um, early doors with the friendship, with the familiarity, with like she's starting to hear this voice, you
mm,
know, um,
mm,
starting to learn a new language. You're not going to just
mm,
drop in and say, like, speak
mm.
freely for an hour and a half. You're going to say, good morning, 2 beers, please. Whatever those first phrases are that people learn in a language. Um, and again, I guess maybe that's a byproduct of the fact that I didn't have those outside influences. So 27 years with the
Yeah.
course, it's like without anybody talking to me either individually or collectively with a
Mm,
strongly held perspective. And I
mm,
also interestingly, with what you're saying as well about the metaphysics being a gift within the text and the workbook being about the forgiveness. I was a text student for those 27 years,
mm.
didn't touch the workbook because I tried it when I was 21
Wow.
and it didn't work. When I
Wow.
got to those lessons where it said, you should be seeing a white glow around stuff now. And I'm like, 21-year-old kid going, where's the white glow, mate? Probably expected it to be like Ready Breck advert.
Yeah.
Blue,
Yeah.
there's an
Holgate, ring of confidence. Yeah. It's an old
uh,
ad. Yeah.
that's right. That's for us English. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I didn't have that influence,
Mm,
and it's something that I've reflected upon afterwards. But it's not jarring for me because it's like, well, this is just starting. It's just building up. So just
mm,
listening, and it's addressing the dreaming mind, as we said earlier, about the poetry format of allowing the material to say the same thing and then a different thing. So, in
mm,
one sense, you could call it contradictory, but it's not contradictory. The
mm,
whole thing is a temporary means of communication because symbols are being used and words are being used, and people think that they're bodies and minds and separate. But that building of that relationship through those first 5 chapters, it's almost natural from my perspective to be met
mm,
in a dualistic kind of way to, again coming back to holding the knife. You don't try and pry someone's fingers open because they then still think they want to hold it. You
mm,
gently show them the value in them making the choice to let go of the
mm,
knife, them making the choice to let go of the belief in the activity of mind that Course in Miracles uses the word ego for. The value in trying to transcend that paradigm that you've dropped into that you just think is rock solid and completely normal and the only
mm,
option.
mm,
It's got to be done gently. That's why it's put together in the way that it is.
mm. Wonderful. I love that. I love that seeing of the first 5 chapters and the course in general. Yes, I really do. Again, it's another view of the perfection of it. It's looking at it and seeing it as perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. It came from, well, I don't think it's self-serving the right. It's generating the joining is
Mm,
generating its own gifts
yeah,
that
for
we're
sure.
receiving as one.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Ah.
So amazing. There we go. And I look at the clock and we said, should we have a look at about 10 o'clock UK time? And it's 21:59. It's like the whole thing's being orchestrated.
Yeah, yeah.
You have totally knocked my socks off. It's been amazing. Absolutely brilliant. I'm like, yeah, I love how wonderfully surprised I am by not. I can see now why it was like, no, you're not getting any background information on this one. I'm going to drive over to Norwich for a big hug with my new special
Uh,
relationship best friend. So, right, let me see the drafts first of this book before anyone else. I want to see it first.
Okay, no, I'll
Give
be
it to
very,
me.
yeah. I'll be happy for a comment.
I'll be like, do we have to share this? Can't I just have it?
No. I mean, my absolute infancy with it. So, and it's going very slowly
Hmm.
because, well, it seems to me, because what this mind has to do to open to receive what's coming through is a stretch for this mind. And this mind can only do it in very tiny amounts at the moment because it's look at a quote and open,
Mm.
blank, and then receive. And it's the greatest invitation that this mind has experienced so far. And it feels so held, but just don't expect it out next year. Well, I don't know, maybe it will, but maybe it'll speed up as this mind gets more used to it. I suspect it will. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to share something with you then. So, I discovered music at 14 years old. Me and my friend, school friend, went back to his house, and he had an older brother, still has an older brother who was a couple of years older than us. So he was still at school in the sixth form, which I'm not sure what the international interpretation of that might be. Further education. So he was still at school, and my friend took me. We went into the house after school. You chuck your bags on the floor and go and watch telly and have a sandwich and some crisps and things like that. And then he's like, "Oi, come with me." And we went upstairs and he opened the door into his brother's bedroom. It was like dun dun dun. There's all posters on the wall and this, and there's a guitar, and he picks up this guitar and turns on the amplifier, and it's what is this? So immediate and direct. It's like right there. And he picked it up and it was all squealing with distortion. And he played the Rolling Stones, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Bang,
Um,
bam, bam, and he just put his fingers there. And he wasn't a guitarist or an expert. And I was like, hold on a minute. So if you do that with those two hands, with that device going through that, you make that noise. And I was like, why didn't I know about this? So that was like, that was 30, what should we say? That was nearly 40 years ago. And there's not many things in my life aside from music and love, spirituality, sort of spiritual interests, where I've managed to consistently never lose my passion and interest for, never get to the
Right.
boundary of it and go, right, that's enough of
Mm.
that. Um, so then when I was about, scroll forward, joined a couple of bands, learned some instruments, blah, blah, blah. Then it gets to the songwriting phase where it's getting a little bit more accomplished. And then I'm exposed to like some of my favorite bands doing concept albums where they don't tell a story in 3 or 4 minutes in a song, they tell a story over a whole double album,
Mm.
10, 15 songs. And my imagination's like, wow, dude, that is like, wow, seriously? Okay,
Mm.
I want to do that. So I did, and again, here goes the conversation spiraling and circling in on itself. I secretly wrote about the course. I did a concept album called Melting In, and
Mm,
it was about the
mm,
process of coming to the understanding and forgiveness and da, 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 and finished that record, and it's in the vault, you know. But that germinated, incubating desire as an 18-year-old kid to do that in what would have been 1990. In 2019, I released my first concept album.
oh, wow.
So
Okay.
it took 25, what's that, 25 years ish.
Wow.
Wrote it over a 10-year period, recorded
Mm,
it over 5 years. I had to self-finance it because no one's going to go, not paying for that. It cost about £13,000 in the end, you know, by the time I was back
right,
in and out of the studio all the time. So I had to go to work, generate some money, go back, record. And what it
right.
meant was that I left the thing alone for these huge periods of time. So, you know,
Mm,
historically, what a band would do when they were in a position to be full time is they go and hire, you know, a country house, stay there for 6 months, develop music on a daily basis out of thin air. And by the
mm,
end of the period, they'd had the thing ready to go into the studio and record and blah, blah, blah. And with this approach, what I'd do is I'd get it to a point, and then because I'd have to go back to work, I wouldn't listen to it. And then next time I press play, it might be a month later, I got all of this objectivity that I wouldn't have got if I was stuck within it.
yeah,
I go,
yeah.
oh my God, listen to that. Oh, well, that section's not long enough. That's
Mm,
too long. That needs some keyboards. Oh, that needs a backing vocal. And all these things would pop up in my head, and then I go back to the studio, add all of those elements, go back to work, not listen to it, come back. And eventually, after about 5 years, I could listen to these 14 songs, press play at the beginning of a track, and like listen to it. And if I got to the end and nothing's flagged up, I'm like,
oh,
finished.
wow. Yes.
And there's also an element of it which seems pertinent to how you're explaining what is necessary for you to do the book is as a younger guy, I hadn't lived the ending of this concept album because, as you know, when people write what there's a phrase, something along the lines of like, fiction is the way by which we tell the truth, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so when people write creatively, it's like, well, you where when you do anything from experience, from authentic understanding, lived experience, and again, one of my favorite things from the course is like, in order to speak to those who suffer, you must first learn their language. And it's like this is what this is how I dealt with this concept album. It was my own life story, processing all the things that had happened that I needed to heal from, making it more universal as a story, so that more and more people could position themselves and populate that story rather than making it so specific that it was just about me.
Mhm.
But I couldn't finish it because I hadn't lived the ending.
Right. Right.
So I needed the experience, the
Yeah.
process. It took 25 years, 10 years to write, 4 years
Wow.
to record. And then when it comes
Wow.
out, before it came out, I had it kept it to myself, joking aside from earlier with your book. And I needed to listen to it over
Mm,
because it was for me and it was to
yeah.
clear my
Right.
field of energy. And there
Right.
was this one particular song I could get to like 10 songs in, and then there was one line in this song, and it says something along the lines of I hear the voice again of the child who wants to speak to the man I've come to be. He wants to say that it's all right. You still remember how to fly. You haven't forgotten how to fly. It's all right.
Mm.
And I used to just go, oh, just 'cause I could hear the sentiment in my voice. I could hear what I wanted to say to myself and how the wanted to put an arm around yourself, but
Yeah.
the juxtaposition of it being the child wanting to do that to the adult because the child was closer to source and less distorted by worldly activities. And then when I could listen to that all the way through and not experience that and to know that
Mm.
I was cleansed, and it's like, right, now I'm ready to offer this gift to other people. And it's called Back
Mm.
Above the Clouds.
Mm.
So yeah, that
That's, yeah, that is superb, supreme.
but I think
Such
that
a,
should help you to, yeah, it feels like
yeah,
that's gives you the little, oh yeah,
yes, 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 yes.
to put it in a frame and say, look, kironJ, if this takes 25 years, it takes 25 years.
That's right. Yes.
25 what? Years. Well, hey, oh, don't worry, don't worry. We haven't got time, it's late.
I do have a sense of spaciousness around it. Like, don't think about a deadline at all. Just listen, receive, write. Indeed, it's for the healing of my mind. So,
Mhm.
and of course, when we choose the healing of our mind, that's the greatest service we can do. So, I'm very much with that. But yeah, really supported by your experience. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
That was the intention.
yeah,
Excellent. And yeah, amazing conversation. What a join in. I can
yeah.
already picture the waves of healing, helpful, um, light, light in the sense of like when something's not heavy, just light traveling
Mm,
without.
mm,
Yeah, I can already feel it's already happened. That's what I know, and people have just gone, "Oh my goodness me!" They've sat with us, basking in the great rays of this wonderful joining, and I'm really grateful that you felt like you wanted to watch the podcast with Andreas because
yeah, yeah.
we are
Yes, I didn't know about you before then, I have to say. I don't know how it popped up to me. I thought, oh, there's a Brit. There's a Brit talking to Andreas. What's going on here? Who are you? What's all this about? And I thought, oh, this is a deep and thoughtful mind that's appearing as Leon. I thought, oh, I'd love to have a chat with him. That was the prompt. I'd love to have a chat with you.
wow.
And I have loved this chat with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
very grateful, honestly. It's amazing. And yeah, like I said, I'll type in Norwich in the sat nav. Probably be there about quarter past midnight.
Okay, I'll have the kettle
Fantastic.
on. Yeah,
So, thank you very much indeed. Super
thank
great.
you. It's
Yeah.
been holy pleasure, really, really holy pleasure.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
Be well knowingly, yeah?
Yes, and you and all. Yeah,
And may the
yeah.
course be with you.
It is. Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah, you too.